Thank you, Anna. So I want to spend some time today explaining to you our Lohuma ISR Uranium project in Wyoming. And within the presentation, I'll provide an update on a recent board appointment and also just on our progress towards drilling, which we're hoping to start in July. Please take a little time to review the disclaimer. There will be some forward-looking statements in the presentation. This is not an investment advice, and so please do your own research. So before I delve into the presentation, I just want to give a context to those of you who haven't heard the GTI story before. Our projects are located primarily in the Powder River and the Great Divide Basins of Wyoming. We have uranium projects, and we're through the early exploration stage with most of those projects, and at the moment we're focusing on our Lohuma project, which is right in the middle of the grey map that you see there, just above Casper. And what's unique about this area is that there are a significant number of permitted and operating facilities around us. There are two. One in the Great Divide Basin at Lost Creek, which is ISR Energy's project, which is in production. And then to the north of us, there is the UEC Irigaray Christensen Ranch project, which is due to restart in August. And then to the top, in the top of the map, at the top right-hand corner, we've got Peninsula's Lance project, which is scheduled to start at the end of this year. So there are a significant number of projects here. This is a place that these projects can get permitted, and those projects that I pointed out to you are all in situ recovery uranium projects. So we recently appointed Simon Williamson to our board. What's interesting about Simon is that he was the general manager for Cameco in Australia and worked for Cameco for around 13 years. So we're really looking forward to what Simon brings to our board in terms of his network and his experience in permitting and feasibility studies, which is very appropriate for the stage that we're at as we move forward to develop our flagship Lohuma project. And just to be clear about our project, our plan of operations going forward, we've got drilling permits in progress with the state of Wyoming. They are in fact extension. That is an extension of the permit that we already had in place from drilling we conducted at the end of last year. So we've updated that permit, and we believe that we'll have the permits approved and be ready to drill in July. That program's 71 holes plus some groundwater monitoring holes. Then, as a result of that drilling, we'll look to update our mineral resource estimate towards the end of the year, and also the exploration target for that project, which we hope then will allow us to move on to a scoping or a PEA study in the back end of this year or early next year. We also have some drilling permits lodged for our Green Mountain project, which is over in the Great Divide Basin, and that will provide us with an option to drill in the latter part of the year if we think we've got the capacity and if conditions allow. And in addition, we have some projects down in Utah, some conventional projects for uranium and vanadium. There's quite a lot of activity going on down in the Colorado Plateau, and so we're dusting those projects off, so to speak, and we're looking at the possibility of doing some further exploration there, either on our own or in partnership potentially with somebody else, and to try and develop a bit of value there. So nothing to report yet, but we are looking at those very closely. So just to reaffirm, our primary focus is our Lohuma project. It's an in-situ recovery project in Wyoming. And then we also have our Green Mountain, Great Divide Basin projects and our Henry Mountains projects, as I've just mentioned. So I just want to move forward here to the resource table. So we already have declared resources of 5.71 million pounds of inferred uranium at Lohuma, and we have an additional 1.66 million pounds, which is modest, but it's a good start in the Great Divide Basin, giving us 7.37 million pounds of inferred resources so far. with an exploration upside potential of, at the top end, £10 million in addition in the Great Divide, and at Low Herma, an additional £10 million, which, if we hit the top end of that, that would be about £15 million. If we hit the bottom end, it would be around £10 million, which we believe is more than enough to set us on a path for an economic project. So our Low Herma project is about 10 miles away from Cameco's Smith Ranch Highland, and that is the largest permitted facility in the USA and certainly in Wyoming. We had a large body of historical data for that project, which we think had a value of around $15 million, and that allowed us to get a very rapid head start on building a resource, and we did that last year, and then we followed that up with a drilling campaign in late 2023 to allow us to verify that data and verify the database that we created in the JORC resource. And what was interesting about that is that we've been able to confirm that there is mineralisation along trend in the trends that we projected there in the Wasatch Formation, but there's also mineralisation in the lower part of the Wasatch Formation, and then we've picked up trace mineralisation down in the Fort Union Formation as well. Now, what's interesting about the Fort Union Formation is that that is the formation that Cameco is producing out of 10 miles to our east. So these formations are both productive in Wyoming and in the Powder River Basin, and so there's quite a bit of scope there, we believe, to increase the size of the resource. So I thought it'd be interesting just to try and put the resource size in context. This table shows Shirley Basin, which is owned by ISR Energy, in the middle of that table. ISR Energy have decided to move on and develop that project. And as you can see, at a size of around £8.8 million, it is the capex is relatively low at $40 million, and the NPV is very attractive at $120 million and an IRR of 83.7%. So those are figures that are published by ISR Energy, and they're moving on that project. And if you look down at the bottom of the table, there's another project there, the Gas Hills project, which is owned by Encore. And Encore similarly have said that they are sequencing that project and intend to move on that project. Their PEA is a little bit older, but we would suggest it might look something similar to Shirley Basin. So that shows that projects of around the £8 million mark are certainly viable, given the low costs and the low capex and the low operating costs for these projects. And so that's what we're trying to do, is move our Low Herma project up into that sort of £7 to £8 million mark. Maybe we can do that with drilling this year, and then that would allow us to start a scoping study. You know, maybe we have to do a little bit more drilling next year, but we certainly believe the potential exists to get a project of this scale. And what is also interesting then is, given that we have the pounds in the ground in Wyoming, how we compare valuation-wise to some of our neighbours. And I think, you know, if you can look at this chart, it shows that we appear to be reasonably cheap compared to some of our neighbours. So just to recap on the key points in the presentation, our Low Herma resource development program is going to lead to drilling this year in July, and we hope from that drilling that we'll expand our drilling, our JORC resource, and push it more towards the £7 or £8 million, and that should set us up for a scoping study. Our Green Mountain exploration plan is to get those permits in place. We're looking at Utah closely, and of course we're always looking at other M&A opportunities, but our focus is on developing the resource at Low Herma. So that's the finish of my presentation. Please, if anybody wants to reach out, do so by contacting me at info@gtienergy.au, and I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you about any aspects of the project. Thanks for your time.